breaking up with my boyfriend. Was it the right decision? We met through a blind date in our early 20s, and we lost contact afterward. The first impression wasn't bad, but we just lost touch after meeting a few times, and not being in sync. Then, in our early 30s, he contacted me again, and after a few meetings, we started dating. He's 2 years older than me, in his mid-30s, and works for a small to medium-sized company. Back when we first met, he was working part-time somewhere, and by the time we met again, he hadn't taken more than 2 months off work. I really admired his dedication to his work, although he didn't earn much. I felt a sense of security from his hard work, even though I'm in a career that relies on experience, and I couldn't afford to quit. He understood that, which I really appreciated. We started dating without any major issues, and last Saturday he suddenly proposed. It was such a surprise because we hadn't talked about marriage at all,
We hadn't even discussed things like finding a house,
or having a formal meeting with our families yet.
even though it was sudden.
I wasn't completely against the idea of marriage. After crying a lot on Saturday, we started looking at wedding venues and house options on Sunday, but he seemed down, so I asked if something was bothering him. I thought it might be something like issues around having kids, but he said it was because he hasn't saved much money. I hadn't saved much either, but I had saved about a few hundred million Korean won, so I thought I could cover it, but then he told me the amount was a little over 4 million. When I asked about the remaining balance after deducting the deposit, he told me that his father needed urgent money, so he had to switch his place from rent to monthly rent. Then he went on to talk about his family situation, which was much harder than I expected. His parents divorced when he was young, and his father raised him and his 2 brothers. To repay his father, he and his brothers had been sending 100 a month to support him. His father works, but has health issues and only earns around 50. On top of that, his father's rent had increased, so he had to switch to a cheaper place. Recently, his brother bought a house in Paju and gifted a 3,000 car for commuting to work.
which drained another 3,000 from their finances.
I had always known that he was close with his family, and his father lived alone and raised 2 sons, which I respected, but I never knew the financial burden his family had.
When I asked about what would happen if we got married,
He said he wanted to enjoy the honeymoon, but he also wanted to continue supporting his father's later years. He then suggested that, if necessary, his father could live with us, but that felt like a huge responsibility for me to take on. I could compromise on the wedding and honeymoon. I'd be fine with a simple ceremony and maybe just going to Thailand for the honeymoon. But when it came to living with his father, or handling these responsibilities, I felt overwhelmed. I couldn't imagine being part of his family's situation, and I realized that his responsibilities were more than I was willing to take on. After thinking it over, I decided that ending the relationship was probably the best decision. It wasn't just about the money. I couldn't imagine spending the rest of my life in this situation. I even wished I had enough money, or won the lottery to handle everything, but unfortunately, I don't. After breaking up on Tuesday, I cried all day and checked the missed calls, which made me cry even more. But I had to get back to work, so I prepared for the day. Was breaking up the right choice? It's not that I don't want to support him or his family, but I just couldn't see myself being in this situation.